when you've kind of played these sort of big shows and things, and how do your goals kind of change once I'm sure you've ticked off a few things that must be in your head, sort of bucket list in some way. How do you kind of go about reassessing what you're chasing after once you tick off some of these things, whether it be a business thing, a guitar thing, whatever?
Well, that's a great question. And I think you have to kind of try and keep yourself in reality a little bit with it and try and remain grounded with a question like that. Because if you've met enough bands and if you talk to enough bands, if you're around enough bands for long enough, then there's this, I think that every person in a band, given enough time, has the propensity to be like, a bit, not jaded, but a bit like, struggle to be like, great, content with what they have. And it's always that like next thing, next accolade, that why can't we have what they've got? That person's got that thing. That's not fair. I think, again, that's kind of human nature. And when you get like these huge hunger for like dopamine hits of like these great things you do and then an absence of it, it's like leaves you like chasing these massive things, and the massive things become desensitizing, and you kind of like want the next big massive thing. And it's just, again, more human condition stuff of like an absence of gratitude with what you have. And I think that just, it's good to be ambitious. You've got to be ambitious. I believe in being ambitious and having things to work towards, but a constantly shifting set of goals is kind of par for the course, I think, for creatives or, people making a living in any kind of creative industry, I suppose, especially where there's accolades involved. But yeah, I think as much as it's important to be ambitious and keep striving for stuff, I think it's important to be really aware of where you came from and how different that looks now, and having gratitude for where you're at, and knowing that, like we said earlier, like, well, what would be the alternative? If I wasn't doing this, then what would be the alternative? And I think that keeps you on the right track, because I think a lot of people walk around with this idea that there's this sort of other dimension where everything's going perfectly and it's all happening, everything's amazing, and like you sort of dip your head into it and go, everything's perfect and nothing ever goes wrong. But in reality is, a lot of the time, this reality that we're living in is like, it's happening right now, and it's right now, this moment in time is as good as it gets, and leaning into that and just taking stock of that, I think, is important too. I'm not sure if that entirely was answering your question. I kind of went off on one a bit, but